Welcome to the Online Success Journey podcast, your opportunity to discover and learn from entrepreneurs like yourself. This is not your typical podcast, but a place where you can get the real story and find out how real people encounter speed bumps and detours, but journey through to find success. Now here's your host for the Online Success Journey podcast, Patience.
Welcome to Online Success Journey. This is episode 370. We have a wonderful guest for you today. So make sure you click to subscribe right now and ensure you will never miss a journey. I post one episode each week and each guest has a fascinating story to tell. Joining us today is Jess Hammer, the founder of Wishes, a fintech app that is changing the transparency of charitable donation made by consumer. His vision that has created one of the most innovative platforms in charitable giving by providing validation for donated funds through transparency in e-commerce, causes, crowdfunding, and non-profits. Hello, Chase.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. My audience is excited to hear your story. Just start by telling us one thing we are going to learn from you today that will help us on our journey to success.
As an entrepreneur for 25 years, I have a lot of experience making critical decisions that either can hurt you or help you, and obviously just keep moving forward. So full of information, just you got to unweave the basket, and I'll give you the information that you're looking for. So,
wow, I can't wait to hear more about that. Let's get started with the basics. Can you tell my audience a little bit about your background, about what you did before you started your own business?
Yeah, well, so I started as an entrepreneur when I was about 19 years old, and I went into the payments business back when credit cards was still pretty new, back in the 1999, and from there I started building a big portfolio in the credit card processing space. But we started building technology in 2014. I became one of the pioneers in virtual credit card issuing. So issuing virtual credit cards for businesses and consumers. I was one of the first fintechs to do that, and learned a whole lot during that time. But I utilized and leveraged that experience to build what we have today, because in the nonprofit space, in the charitable giving space, when you give to a nonprofit or a charity, or you give to an individual through like a GoFundMe, you don't know what happens to the money afterwards. They can use it on, there's a lot of scams that happen on those sites. There's also, there's a lot of stuff that goes to overhead to the charities. Most of the charities don't actually give 100% of the funds that you donate. They actually probably take about 40 to 50% of those funds for overhead. So we wanted to build a platform where almost 100% of the funds would go to the cause or persons that needed that help. And we've been able to develop a platform that allows donors to understand where their money goes, and how that affects and impacts the causes and people that they're trying to support. So I think, and this is a plugin both for charities, but also for, people that are doing fundraisers for causes individually. And all of this stuff wouldn't have been possible without me building that technology for the fintech that I built prior to this. But so been an entrepreneur forever. I don't know anything else. Never worked for anyone else. And, it's just kind of the way that I'm built now. I think that's just the way that I'll always be.
Wow. But why do you do what do you do?
Well, that's a good question. I think I do it now because I want to. So the difference between when I built the first fintech and built my first companies, I wanted to build a company that was worth $1 billion. I was obsessed with the idea of becoming a billionaire. And, there were some things that happened in my life that made me change my perspective. And now, I call it B 2.0. The billion 2.0 is to basically impact 1 billion people in a positive way. So, now my mission is not around making money, but more around impact and helping others. And so I'm driven more by that, and trying to, improve the life of others than trying to, make direct impact for my bottom line.
Let's put man aside. How do you know you are successful?
Well, that's a good question. I think as an entrepreneur, you'll have like you usually compare yourselves to others, and I think that and that's not a good thing to do. But I constantly have always done that in the past, and I think, um, it's hard because companies are at different points in their journey than you are, and it's easy to get caught up in trying to compare yourself to others. So I think as entrepreneurs, we always feel like we're falling short. And I think when we have an idea of what success is, when we reach that level of success, it's still not enough. So I know that I'm successful because I can create something out of nothing. You put me in 100 different circumstances, and I can make things happen. And I think the definition of success is how much you can do with nothing, right? If you can do something with nothing, um, that is something. You know what I mean? And I think people that need that you can't do something unless this happens or unless that happens. Like if that's you, like you need to rethink what that looks like, because if you need things in order to be successful, then you're not successful. I mean, being able to take something from nothing and generate, and really kind of like how much can you do with nothing, right? How much, what would you be if you had nothing? Like, and I think that's really successful is if you can actually cultivate something from nothing and you can make that seed grow into a tree. That's successful to me, no matter what that looks like financially, or you know, or what industry you're in. I think to me that's successful, and just being able to do what you want to do when you want to do it. That's successful. That's freedom. Freedom and peace is success.
What do you think about the blockchain and the future of the money?
Well, I mean, blockchain and cryptocurrency. They've found that supercomputers. So the whole thing about blockchain, it was this 256-bit encryption that was not going to be able to be unbroken. It would take years for people to unbreak the passwords to get to basically hack into those accounts. However, now they've found that the supercomputers, these quantum computers, can break it in a day. So I think the future of blockchain and cryptocurrency is that it doesn't actually have a future. I feel like digital currency will have the future, but crypto itself and blockchain, it's not going to be the currency of the future.
Tell my audience about the magic moment, the day it suddenly all went right for you.
When everything went right, that's a hard date to pinpoint. I mean, I think a lot of bad things have to happen and a lot of failures have to happen in order for things to go right. And I think it's the failures that are is that what makes things change. For me, it was I had an accident that happened, and it just made me rethink my whole life, and it kind of made me dig into who I was personally, and I think that moment was the moment that it changed my life and my outlook, and it made me refocus my priorities and understand what's important. And I think did everything go right from there? No, but I think it definitely changed my perspective in a way that I was able to focus on the important things that put me in a position to win today. So I think it's the failures and the things that mess you up that really are the ones that make you think and re-strategize like what's important and what you need to do to win.
As you mentioned that you've been an entrepreneur for over 25 years, I presume you've met entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs along the way. But can anyone be an entrepreneur, or are some people more cut out for it than others?
I mean, yeah, I'd say no. I say being an entrepreneur, yeah, anyone can do it, but there's millions of businesses. Like in the United States alone, there's like over 12 million new businesses that start every year. Over 95% of them fail, over 3 years. So can everyone become an entrepreneur? I'd say no. And I think it's just because people don't realize that they need structure. A lot of people Even though they hate their job, they depend upon that structure in order to keep them in line, you know. And once you have no structure and everything's on you and all the money and the financials is on you and trying to figure out how to make ends meet and rob Peter to pay Paul in order to get your employees paid, that kind of stress, most people aren't built for that, you know. I mean, I think being able to do that consistently and win at the end of the day is hard, and that's why 95% of all businesses fail. So, yeah, I mean, people ultimately think that they are built for this. The statistics show that 95% of people aren't.
How did you create more sales by using charitable giving and causes in a transparent way?
Yeah, well, so if you're a e-commerce website or an e-commerce merchant and you're using a lot of people that are online, they'll utilize a charity or a cause to support in order to move the needle forward. So they'll say, "Hey, we're giving to this cause or that cause in order to sell more products." It's actually proven that that's true. You know, when you utilize a charity that you're supporting, people are more likely to not only donate but to purchase products. But by us not only allowing these e-commerce stores to connect, but we're also allowing to show transparency on how that money was spent. It keeps people understanding that transparency opens up people's wallets to give more and to when they understand what happens to their money, because trust is created with transparency. And we're the only platform in the charitable giving space that can provide the insights on how that money is spent, you know, to any charity or a cause that any merchant is supporting.
What have you learned from business as a whole?
I mean, I've learned a lot of things. You know, patience is the key, but also, you know, really understanding your numbers and understanding like your burn rate, and you know, realizing like when you need to get rid of people, when you need to keep people, when you need to give people raises and empower people. I think what I've learned is that it's a team sport, and if your team is not happy, it's going to be impossible for you to win, and you know it's impossible for you to scale if you don't have your team. So having a good team, you know, relying on others, helping empower others to do good for you is really the key to success.
What is the most dangerous belief an entrepreneur can have?
I think not being focused, lack of focus, and then ultimately, you know, trying to pivot too many times, because there's times in our business where we second guess ourselves because maybe things aren't going right, things are too slow. And so you start, instead of actually writing it out and trying to build a bigger business with the core values that you bring, you pivot in a totally different direction. And that essentially changes the whole business. And you're basically starting from scratch again. So you can only do that a few times before you run out of money. So I think, you know, entrepreneurs got to be aware of that. Is too many shiny objects and too many good things to chase after. When that happens, it's almost impossible to win.
If you could rerun the first year of your business, what would you definitely not to do?
Well, I didn't know what I didn't know initially. So I think, you know, when you're building a technology stack, it's just understanding like which developers you need first, like how are they writing that language, like understanding a lot more about the building aspect of the technology. You know, because if you don't build it right, you build it on a tech stack that's going to be outdated soon, you really are going to have a lot of problems, and you can't be able to adjust or rebuild architecture. So having a good architecture and having a good team that can actually change directions, pivot, and do those things, that's what I would have changed. You know, those ultimately cost a lot of money in the long run, and can put you out of business if you can't pivot and make fresh adaptations to your technology stack.
How did you come from nothing to build a $1 billion company without any tech experience and no mentors? Wow.
I mean, you know, it wasn't easy. I essentially, I had to make a ton of mistakes. You know, and most people are afraid to make mistakes. I'm not. I take risk. way more risk than I should. And sometimes that works out and sometimes that backfires. But I think it's just learning the lessons of hard knocks and taking chances and trusting your instincts and dusting yourself off when you fall down.
What is the most valuable thing you have ever given away?
I think my knowledge is that I give it away for free because I want other founders to win. Because going through all these hard experiences was life changing and demoralizing. So when you're defeated and you don't feel like, for most people, a lot of these things that happened to me would significantly affect and impact their lives in a negative way, and it did that for me. So I think all these things that I've learned, although they were super hard lessons, sharing that knowledge and allowing other founders to potentially avoid those mistakes is the most valuable thing that I can give away.
How can donors get attribution on their charitable giving?
When you donate today to a campaign or a cause or a fundraiser, you don't know what happens to your money afterwards. So the attribution that we're able to provide is by providing insights into what happens to the money after you donate. So we are actually able to track and see the donations, where they're spent and how often, where they're spent, the amounts of money that are spent, and that's all our insights that we can give back to the donors that make those contributions.
What is one thing that has contributed to your success?
Like a strong will and a desire to win and never say die attitude. So no matter what happens, negative or positive, I never give up. And I think that's the one thing that separates the men from the boys and the women from the ladies, is that if you don't give up and you keep going when everything's wrong and everything's bad and everyone's doubting you, that's what separates the winners from the losers.
What grounds you?
My son and my humility, because when you fail so many times before you win, you really learn to be humble and you're empathetic to what's going on around you. When you do nothing but win, which is nobody's story, by the way, eventually you will lose and you'll fail. And that's why pretty much all the people that have won in really big ways, most of them are empathetic and humble because they've experienced so much loss. It's impossible to be a great leader and to not be grounded if you've been through the experiences that most people that have won have indeed done.
Do you have mentors or coaches in your business now?
Yeah, so now I surround myself with people that I can bounce ideas with and actually rely on and get information from. And it wasn't that way initially, but over time I was able to get people around me that I trust and that that I've learned a lot from. So now today it's a different story than it was when I started, but and I'm thankful for that.
What is the most valuable thing your inner circles has told you?
I mean, there's a lot of things, I think, but I think if you can't accept love, you can't give love. And I think that's important for everyone to realize, because, when you're running 100 miles an hour and you're trying to do for everybody else, but if you're not loving yourself, it's impossible. It's really impossible to win. You have to be able to, love yourself to love others and be able to make it to the next level. That's just, that's just the way it is.
What did you attribute to continuing on the journey when things looked really impossible?
I mean, I don't want to give up. I don't want to lose, so I'm willing to sacrifice everything to make it. And I think when I say sacrifice everything, I mean everything of mine that I'm able to sacrifice, I'm willing to give it all up to win, and I think if you're not willing to die, not literally, figuratively, if you're not willing to do that, then it's going to be impossible for you to win. Hence, 95% of businesses fail, which is why 95% of people aren't willing to die for what they believe in. And I'm just not that way. I'm in for the long term, and no matter how good or crazy it gets, I'm not going to leave until I make it happen. That's just the way I am.
What advice would you give some people who are now moving into online space?
I would suggest that, that realize that the entrepreneurial journey is lonely. Okay. So, you might start a business with a friend. If you are starting a business with a friend or a partner, make sure that, you're ready to get married to that person. Not really, but like you see, it's that type of relationship. But just realize if you are doing it by yourself, there's not going to be a whole lot of cheerleaders around for you. And there's not going to be anyone to pat you on the back when you do things right. So you just have to be really willing to go through this journey alone and sacrifice everything to make it happen. And if you're not willing to do that, I would suggest that you don't try.
Let's talk about your business. Tell us more about it and how can we join it?
Yeah. So, we're, as far as, we're launching our Wishes in May. When that happens, you can go to wishes.inc and you can register to get notified once we go live. If you're a consumer or a donor that wants to make donations, or you're a business that wants to participate in the retailer market that we have, because we have a market that we push our wishers, or which are consumers that are receiving funds to. You can register as a business. You can register as a potential donor, and once we launch in May, we'll give you a notification so you can sign up and get into the giving marketplace. And that's the best way to do it. And we're excited about what's to come, and excited that this is going to change charitable giving forever. It will.
And how can we connect with you?
You can connect with me on LinkedIn, Chase Harmer on LinkedIn, or you can connect with me on Facebook, Chase Harmer as well. So
there will be more from Chase in a moment. If you are listening to this on the podcasting platform and you are encouraged by Chase's journey, please go to our website at onlinesuccessjourney.com. In addition to the amazing free content, you can work direct with me. Check out my course, Success: How to Set Goals and Double Your Productivity, a course for achieving success in work and life, when you visit onlinesuccessjourney.com. The site has a ton of audio clips from hundreds of successful entrepreneur guests' journeys, all there to help you find the path to your own online success journey. Check it out. That's onlinesuccessjourney.com. Now, Chase, I would love for you to share more with my audience if you're up for it.
Sure.
Thank you. Do you watch movies or read books?
Movies.
Tell us, what is your favorite movie that has some relevance to being an entrepreneur?
Well, I mean, I read a lot of books too, but I'd rather watch movies. So if I was a book, then I'd say Built to Last by Jim Collins. It's a great book. And as far as a business one, I watch movies more to just like be entertained, I guess. I read books in Audible to learn more.
If your business was down to its last $100, how would you invest it?
That's a good question. I would take that $100 to try to make another couple $100, because at the end of the day, with $100, you can't actually do much. So in order for you to be able to invest in a business, or take that business to the next level, and it would be depend on what I already have. Do I have the business set up? If I don't, I'd take that $100 to do that. But otherwise, I would use that $100 to try to make more money before I invested it into the business, because building a business costs a lot more than $100, and you're going to need more money and more leverage to build it successfully. So I try to make more money with that 100 that I had.
If you are going to keep a note to yourself in your pocket every day, what would be written on it?
Everything that comes to my head. So what would be written on it is, for me, is to realize I'm unstoppable, and I think a lot of times we have a lot of self-doubt, and the self-doubt clouds our heads. But to continue to say a mantra in your head that makes, because the more that you say unstoppable, I'm unstoppable, I'm unstoppable, unstoppable, even if you don't believe it and you keep saying it over and over and over and over again, you actually start to be that, and no matter what happens, you just keep going. And Tony Robbins said the same thing, and I think that's absolutely true. So if it was one thing, that's probably what I would say is I'm unstoppable.
What is your next chapter?
I'm writing my next chapter, and it's to help impact 1 billion people with wishes.
Do you feel like you succeeded, or like you're only on the way?
I feel like I'm on the way. Yeah. I feel like success is still years out of my reach.
Will you ever stop?
No.
Wow. Chase, it's been great to have you here to share your online success journey with us.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the time.
You are welcome. Remember, success is a journey. Don't wait. Let's start the journey. Patience and Chase.
This is not the end of the journey. We hope you've enjoyed listening to Patience and her guest and want you to know that there are hundreds of episodes available at onlinesuccessjourney.com. Patience would like to thank you for listening to the podcast, and she has a free gift for you on her website, including an audio compilation of her guests' best tips, uplifting stories, and even a bit of fun. Additionally, there are special clips of over 250 episodes that have never aired on the podcast and are only available to members of the Online Success Journey. Check the website and click on Join Now to get free and instant access. Of course, you know that listening to the journeys of others helps us each chart our own path. So make sure you're subscribed on the favorite platform you have to be notified as each new interview is posted. There are so many ways to stay connected to the Online Success Journey and listen in. And if you're enjoying the podcast, we appreciate your help in telling others. One of the best ways to share the benefit you get is to rate and review the podcast at Apple Podcasts and other sites. We appreciate your help and your willingness to share the journey. One last thing, if you're feeling a bit lost or overwhelmed on your own journey, Patience can help. Check out our coaching sessions on how to set goals and double your productivity while you're at the website. Working with Patience is a great way to get back on the right path. On behalf of Patience, and until next time, thanks once more for listening. It is our hope that this podcast will guide you on your own online success journey.